together. I'll still be here just producing technically, but I'm going to remove my video and audio. And then Phil.
Can you guys hear me, by the way?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yes. I can't seem to get my AirPod to work, so I'm using the laptop speaker and mic. I hope it sounds okay.
Yeah, you sound good.
All right.
Yeah, I have problems when I try to use my earbuds like on Zoom. I have problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we live right now?
And we're live.
Oh, we are.
Oh,
you know, Clem.
No, I'm dead.
Clem, you look like John Boyd.
So are people?
Hang on.
Are we actually broadcasting this now?
I lost your picture for a while.
I believe we are.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's start it off since I'm the designated moderator. Welcome to everybody who's watching this. We are doing a Q&A for the feature film Lucky Grandma, which is available right now in virtual cinemas. My name's Phil Yu. I run a blog called Angry Asian Man, and
yes, that's what I said.
What?
John Boyd.
And
that's what she said.
That's what she said. Yeah,
we all heard it. Yeah.
And so this is for Lucky Grandma, and I'm a big fan of Lucky Grandma. So it's my pleasure to conduct this fun conversation we're gonna have with the cast and crew of Lucky Grandma. So let me do a couple quick introductions so we can get on with it. We have the director and co-writer of Lucky Grandma, Sasie Sealy. Say hi.
Hi.
We have the co-writer, Angela Cheng.
Hi.
Hello. From the cast, we have, let me see, I'm going to go in order of how it appears on my screen. We have Wai Ching Ho, who plays Lele the fortune teller. Hello.
Hello.
We have, we have Clem Cheung, who plays Benny Ing.
Hi there.
We've got, we got Michael To, who plays Little Handsome.
Yay!
Woody Fu, who plays Pock-Mark. And then we have Yan Shi, who plays Sister Fong.
Hello, Yan.
So the movie's been out since Friday? Yeah, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So people have been watching it in virtual cinemas, and it's been really cool to see the reactions. Obviously, we wanted people, you wanted people to see this in the theater, but, the world being what it is right now, we have a different way of watching it, which the reactions that I've been seeing online have been very positive. And of course, the person who is missing from our cast is the legendary Tsai, who plays Grandma. So let's start there, actually. If you walk around Chinatown, and you see all the people who live there, walk around there and shop and everything, I think the last person I think would be the sort of center of a crime gangster caper would be a grandma, right? Like the innumerable grandmas who walk around Chinatown. But your movie, Sasie, centers grandma and makes this really unusual but really cool, different setup for a Chinatown gangster story. What was the genesis of this story? Like, what put that idea in your head?
Well, I mean, it all starts with the Chinatown bus. I feel like I've told this story a million times now, but, I'm a big fan. I used to take them all the time to Boston or DC or to the casino. Sometimes I used to like to go to the casino. And those buses that leave from New York to the local places like in Connecticut, they leave at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening and they come back at 4 in the morning. So they're really kind of party buses, really. And I was like the only person under 50 on this party bus, just me and a bunch of grandmas and aunties and grandpas and uncles. And so I kind of had the initial kind of spark of the idea of that scene from the bus and the bag falling in grandma's lap. But you walk around Chinatown, there's all these faces. They all have mysteries to them, right? Many lives behind those faces.
And so the movie is a real love letter to Chinatown, I think. there's that opening there's like a montage near the beginning of the movie where grandma's walking around and you see all the food and the people and the shopping and stuff like that, and it's really like it has a lot of energy. And this movie is coming out right now at a time where like Chinatown could use some love, honestly. And it's really great to watch this movie, and you see all the faces populating this what feels like a very lived in world. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about sort of how you wanted to create this world of Chinatown, or recreate, or pay homage to the real Chinatown.
Sure. Well, I mean, we definitely started, I've always been kind of fascinated by Chinatown ever since I've moved to New York. And, we wanted to create something that was both an homage to the kind of place that Chinatown holds in our imagination and in cinema. I feel like it has such a mystique in movies as this very sort of like exotic place that's full of like mystery. And in my mind, it had all of that mystery and sort of charm too, but at the same time, present it as authentic. And so, we spent a lot of time and thought on trying to figure out a way to make it both true, but still a little bit pushed. So, we did research on the costumes, on all of the production design, basically photographs. But we were also looking at how Chinatown was portrayed in different movies. And, the idea of Chinatown is not just about Chinatown in New York. It's also sort of this idea that reoccurs in different cities. And so, we were sort of trying to figure out a way to meld those together. And so I think, I'm hoping that we were successful in taking things that were true to life and that were real details and kind of distilling them to something that was really the essence of the place in a way, and just a little bit pushed. So that's what we really tried to do. And also with the casting and all that, like casting extras right out of Chinatown, like shooting in real locations, like all of that stuff, you can't really replace at all. Yeah.
Angela, you want to maybe talk about that too, about writing the script?
Yeah, I mean, so Sasie and I went to film school together, and that's when I moved to New York City. And I feel like I just second what she was saying about the Chinatown that lives in movies. I felt like I grew up watching things like Big Trouble in Little China and stuff like that, and always felt like Chinatown could use some representation. And so when Sasie came to me and pitched the idea to me, I not only saw grandma, because that particular grandma reminded me of so many of the women in my life, but I also saw the opportunity to be able to dig into the mystery of New York's Chinatown as well, but also to capture some of the reality of it too.
Can we talk about casting Tsai Chin? She is, I got, we got to talk to her last year about this movie, and she's mentioned that she's never been in a movie, well, she's been in tons of movies, but she's never been in a movie where she was in every scene. I think basically in every scene. Yeah. And she's doing this at age, I don't know, I'm not
85,
sure. 85, right? She shot this, when she shot she was 85. That is like, it's hard enough to see an Asian American woman in the movies who's in every scene of a movie, but one who is in her, 8th decade, that's incredible. Can you talk about casting her and what you had in mind when you originally envisioned the role and what she embodied when you cast her?
Yeah, I mean, so like when we were looking for grandma, originally I was looking for someone younger because I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be stupid. I'm gonna cast a nice 70-year-old spry, like young spring chicken, and then I'll just give him a little makeup. It'll be fine. But I was really looking for somebody who embodied the spirit of what Angela and I had written on the page and hadn't been able to find it. But Tsai had always sort of been in the back of our minds, and we were aware of her. But she's actually older than the character. Like the character is 80 and Tsai was 85. And so, I'd kind of written her off because of that. But a friend of mine was at a Q&A for Joy Luck Club, the 25th anniversary screening in LA. And actually Milton, so Milton, he was the one who was there and called me right after the screening and said, I don't know. She seems pretty feisty to me. I think that, you should meet her. So I sent her the script and I flew out like 48 hours later. And, I pretty much knew as soon as I saw her. But 4 hours later, a couple bottles of wine later, it was pretty much a done deal. She said that I made her an offer that she couldn't refuse because, it's the lead. And, you don't, like you said, you don't really get a chance to do that very often. I think especially as like a female Asian actress. I'd be curious to hear like why and Yan have to say about this. But, for me, I really hope that Tsai gets attention for this because I think about how talented she is and the trajectory of her career and that she just didn't have the roles, she just didn't have the chance like to really be this. I mean, she's so amazing. She was on stage, but then like, she gets cast as a Bond girl, which is, don't get me wrong, it's very cool to be a Bond girl, but I feel like, she could have been like the Meryl Streep of her generation. I don't know. I don't know if like you see things changing. I'd be just curious, or like what kinds of opportunities for roles that you guys have seen in your careers, and if that's changing at all. Do you mind if I ask why and Yan?
Yeah, no. Why and Yan?
Yeah.
Maybe you got, yeah. Well, maybe you could talk about that. I mean, like this is a rare, like the role of grandma is a rare occasion where like an older Asian woman is front and center. You know what I mean? And so I can't imagine like that. Well, I watch a lot of TV and movies, so I know that is not the case most of the time. I mean, maybe you could speak to a little bit about the opportunities and why this is sort of, why this is so revolutionary. It's such a strange and interesting and wonderful occasion.
Well, I'm older than Yan, so I'll speak up. I think it's amazing that Tsai gets this amazing role. I mean, she was famous already in Joy Luck Club, but that was quite, like 20 years, 25 years ago, something like that. And since then, she really did not really have a consistent career, even though that kind of, opened it up for her. Of course, I knew she did, a lot of stage work in London, I'm really didn't really follow it. But just to see her having this central role in such an amazing character at 85, and she is so spry and so with it. It's I just take my hat off to her. She's and it's what an opportunity. Who gives us this kind of opportunity? I have to admit, I was like, I turned 70 and I got some good TV gigs as a villain, but never really that kind of central role. And even for that, I was very thankful. It just, it's amazing to me. So in a way, I'm kind of hopeful that things are changing. We are no longer required to be young and beautiful China doll. I mean, when I started out, that's, there was no character actors required for a 25-year-old who started out. You're beautiful, you're a China doll, and that's it. And as a result, I worked so little in film and TV. And thank God I had a stage career that sustained me. But something like this is really once in a lifetime. And I hope it opens the door for a lot of future older actresses, myself included. Yeah, you're too young. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
All right. Why? We'll write something for you next.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
The crazy
Yes.
fortune teller.
Leading role at that. What I feel like I mean, I didn't set out to be an actor. I had 2 doctor parents. So I majored in computer science and was in IT for like 7 years. But you know, I was like, oh my God, is this the rest of my life? Me and my PC? You know, it was very depressing. I was like this, I was completely lost until I was like, oh my God, acting is what I always want to do, but I know nobody in it. I don't even know where to start. And I was living in the DC area at the time, and I saw this little, like on the Washington Post one day, there was a casting section. There was like only 2 things listed. It's like one said some like a role of any ethnicity or something. I'm like, I've never done this before. I would just like show up, and I almost chickened out, and I was like, I'm not going tonight. And then a friend of mine is like, but this is what you said you want to do, right? Let's go. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to meet you there. And so I auditioned. I completely sucked, I think, but it happens to be like it's a Chinese young girl, you know, working in a restaurant in the 1800s or something, and it's a melodrama. It's actually very fun. And I auditioned. I completely sucked. Someone else was there with a full headshot and resume. I had nothing, and I think she was cast initially, and then but she probably dropped out because the day before the first rehearsal start, I got a call from the director to say, "Are you still interested in the role? You know, it starts tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay." I said, and that's like how I started. And I must say, like, the DC theater community was so welcoming. I felt like I actually, by doing, that was the only community theater I did. And then I got into these small professional theaters, like, you know, Source Theater or Studio Theater and things like that. And I had play roles that would be considered non-traditional casting now. Like I was in a play, I played Cassandra and Iphigenia, and I had a white mother and a black father. So that was like, you know, revolutionary. What was that, like almost like 20 years ago or something like that. And at that time, you just don't see things happening like that, not even in theater, not anywhere. And the amazing thing is it was played in this like church, and it was a pretty big theater, and it was packed all the time, and nobody ever had an issue to say, I had trouble seeing that family on stage. So that was, I think I felt very inclusive in that way. But then later on, getting in TV and film, I feel like it's more, I started more like in commercials, and now it's kind of like it was the young mom or the doctor or the nurse. I was those things a lot. And eventually with the auditioning, I was those things a lot too, or for like pharmacist, and definitely I'm the doctor look. So I was really grateful to be cast as Sister Fong. It's like one of the, like my breakout moment. Like I'm not playing the sort of stereotype, like the Asian female my age that normally plays. And she's powerful, and she's chain smoking just like grandma. I feel like they're very similar. I don't know if that was intended, Sister
Yes.
Fong and and grandma. They are both go-getters. They set out a goal, and they're gonna do whatever way they could achieve that goal. They will do it. So yeah, and it was so fun to play someone that's really kind of far from me.
You know, speaking of those kinds of roles that you look, so I am guilty of being one of those people who when I watch movies and TV, I'll just scour the screen, just be like, Asian. I think there's an Asian right there. Or like just, you know, like randomly when you're like you're a waiter, or you're like just, you know, a nurse or something in the scene, right? And I've seen all of you in various roles, like small and character roles over the years, you know. And so I, you know, when, you know, and I've done that for probably all of you in some way, like, oh, look, that Asian, you know, like, it's so, but then when the entire movie is almost 100%. I think there's only like one white person in the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, Arden.
Yeah, right. Like when the whole movie is cast with Asian American actors, it changes things. It changes the dynamic completely, right? You're not doing. Yeah, you're not doing the Asian spotting. And so, I wonder if everybody, all the actors, could speak to that. Like, what is it like to inhabit this, a world like this in film, where you're not just being like inserted in as color or as a, just a stock character, but you actually get to be a character. I mean, like, even like we've seen people in Asian gangster roles, but like I don't think I've really get to see like Asian gangsters played like this, like really play. I wonder if like any of you guys could speak to that.
Sure, it's funny because when I watch Phil, I watch similar like you. I do Asian spotting, and so as an actor, on the flip side of that, when I know that it's Asian spotting is out there, and I'm in a show or a movie, and I'm the one of the few Asian people on set, I have, it's a different feel. So I feel like there's a responsibility. I feel a lot, there's a lot of, the dynamics are very different. And being on Sasie set, that stuff is completely, I don't have, that whole part, half of me is completely washed away. And I don't have to worry about that. I'm just focusing on the character. I'm focusing on the story, and that Asian spotting feel is not happening there. And that's so refreshing to be in a part of a team and a crew and a cast with that mindset.
Yeah, to jump on that, like the Asian spotting thing, so that's something I do all the time. Anytime I see an Asian on screen, I'll do this with whoever I'm watching TV with, which is an AP, and it stands for Asian Pride. And I literally just like if there's an Asian guy in a commercial, I'm just like, but
I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it.
You gotta do it. My West Coast friend taught me that. So anyways, going back to what Y was saying also, it's like the roles just don't exist until they're written, right? So if you're an Asian actor, you're going out there 9 times out of 10, you're auditioning for a role that some white guy in Hollywood wrote, and he's writing the story of a white male character and trying to become a better white male character. And like any Asians in that show or movie are going to just be like secondary, tertiary characters, like, the hacker, the doctor, like all the things we've gone in for many, many times, all the things that I've auditioned for that I never gotten that my parents want me to actually be. But then like a movie like this comes along where all the characters are like, their race has nothing to do with it in a lot of it, so it's like these are gangsters, and yes, like the ethnicity informs the world and the story and everything, but like that's not what these characters are. The characters are like nuanced and have motivations of their own and have like relationships off each other that are very specific, that are informed by their race. But it's not like, it's not like I'm a hacker on a TV show where I'm just like, I'm good at computers, I'm in, guy, like, and I think a lot of that comes back to the writing and the directing, like Angela and Sasie creating this world and these characters that is like a playground that allows us as actors to be like, oh, great. To Michael's point, it's like, I don't have to like code switch to like being like a good presenting Asian on this set of like white people or whatever, not that I really do that often, but like, it's a feeling that is real, and on this set, I felt very comfortable, like, I think for a lot of people who have seen the movie and who are working on it, one of the reasons it had such a great grip was because it's very emotionally true. I think specifically to being Chinese, like the grandma character, I think is a very like relatable Asian matriarch character, where she doesn't have like the traditional American love language of like, I love you, hug. It's like food. Food is the love language, and you get it like once, you know what I mean? And like anybody who was raised with that is like, yep, that's emotionally true. And I feel that, and it's resonated, and it's like, it doesn't have to be explained or spoon fed. It's like, I just get it. And that's like part of what I think makes this movie so special.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that Angela feels the same way, but when we're writing, yeah. So, I mean, I love that you guys are saying that definitely about all the Asian roles, but I hope that like, no matter what I write or we write together in the future, that it's always that way. Cause I've always felt that way about women too. Like I don't want to write a woman who's just like the girlfriend or like the wife or the mother, because I think like everybody, like every character that is in a story or a movie, like just like every person that you see on the street has this whole other side to them. And my favorite directors and filmmakers, you know, even like with the extras they cast and the people that they pick, you feel like there's a whole story behind that person. They never feel like just a stock character. Oh, here's the like, you know, the computer guy, and here's like the girlfriend and the goofy neighbor. You know, it's nice when it feels like a real person. And so I hope that we do that no matter what kinds of stories we're doing.
Can we backtrack and talk a little bit more about casting, specifically the role of Big Pong? Because I remember when you were casting for this, because I saw casting calls. I saw casting calls for it go out, and it was. No,
I think we try to find people on your blog, Phil.
Yeah, no, I remember because it was more or less like we're looking for a really giant Chinese guy. Like, I mean, like it just felt like we want a Chinese. I think it was something like Chinese Andre the Giant. So, can you talk about like, how you eventually found your actor? What was it that? Because in my mind, he actually doesn't look like the guy I thought when I saw the casting call. I was actually thinking a literal Andre the Giant. So, can you talk about actually getting your actor?
Oh, really? Because I feel like Corey is pretty close to our imagination of what Big Pong was going to be like, right, Angela? I don't know.
Yeah, and definitely go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, this isn't really. This is sort of only a little bit related to casting, which is that when we found out that we were going to make the movie, I remember looking at Sasie being like, oh, we have to find Big Pong. Like we had written this guy that we weren't sure actually existed, and so we're like, oh, now we have to find this person that we made up who also has to be a good actor. Like that was very daunting. So I'll let you tell the story, Sasie, but I just wanted to interject.
Yeah, no, it was probably the biggest challenge, like even harder than finding grandma, really. I mean, and we were looking all over the place, all over North America. We were looking in Asia. We were putting out notices looking for wrestlers, basketball players. I mean, you name it, like stunt guys. But yeah, it was like trying to find somebody who kind of fit, but who also could act. And we really just got lucky. It was really pure luck. Our script supervisor, Yaya, is from Taiwan, and she knew that we had not cast the role yet. Like Big Pong was like one of the last ones. We were still looking, and she knew about this guy. So Corey Ha is like a personality. He was a basketball player in Taiwan, and then he has like a food show. He's been in some sitcoms. He's like a person who would be like on Ellen in the States, basically. So she knew about him. We had never heard of him. Even Angela, I think, whose family's from Taiwan, had never heard of him. But we basically stalked him online and finally got in touch with like his manager. Although I think his manager didn't answer. I think we eventually got in touch with his sister. We like used the Asian network of like that operates on like WeChat and WhatsApp to like try to track him down. And finally found him. And he sent the most adorable audition video I have ever seen, where he like stands in front of a door. He's in this like audition room. It's very plain. Stands up in front of a door and says that in the script, it says Big Pong is as big as a door. So I'm perfect for the third role. And I was like, yeah.
He is perfect.
Yeah, he is perfect. And it's very clear from the beginning, his spirit is very close to Big Pong in a way. He's such a nice guy. He's so sweet. And also has a large baby.
Can you talk about okay, I have a question for Michael. And there's a specific moment in the movie. So ideally you would want to watch it with an audience, and I was lucky to see it with an audience at the Los Angeles Asian Film Festival last year. And there's a scene where the audience reacts, and it was audibly like like everyone gasped. And I bet you know what I'm talking about. It's the scene with the knife.
Yeah, are we doing a no spoiler version?
Is this the no spoiler version? I don't know.
I don't know.
I was operating on the assumption that people who were tuning in had watched it now, and this was like a.
Yeah, I think so. I think people have watched it.
But can I just ask about that? Because actually, I realize now it's an editing trick because I haven't watched it like 3 times now. But I mean, it was like Louis Buñuel star, like type of horror right there. Can you talk about? Can we just say it like the knife moment? And what were your specific instructions? And like it's so weird for me because I know I've hung out with Mike. I've met your daughter. Like he's a totally normal, mild-mannered guy, not a psychopath like in the movie. So it's so.
Call acting, Phil. Acting.
Yeah. Mike, could you talk about that?
He's a secret psycho.
Yeah. So that's why the role is so fun to play because Little Handsome's definitely he's got a few screws loose, and him and his partner Pock-Mark Woody, we're not the brightest bulbs in the gangs, or necessarily the highest level. We're kind of on the low level rung. And so, I play the muscle, and part of my muscle is, when I get angry, I don't feel stuff, and I could use a knife and I don't know, cut different places of me and still don't get hurt, and that was my intimidation factor with Tsai. But that was actually our first day. I think it was our first day on set. So all of a sudden I hadn't met Tsai then, I think, and that was the first time meeting her during that scene. So at the same time, while I'm trying to be intimidating in character to Tsai, it was actually in real life it was vice versa. And she she plays tough back to me, in the scene, and in real life I'm like, but I'm like, all right, I gotta stay in character. But that was a fun scene, and we had a second knife technical thing later on in the movie too. So that it was a cool character.
Can you talk about, actually, that reminds me, there is like a decent amount of like action in the movie. For like an indie film, there's like bullets flying or what looks like bullets flying. Can you talk a little bit about directing action scenes? Because this is an indie movie, and you're not, I'm actually quite impressed with some of the stuff you pulled off.
Thanks. There was a lot of, let's say, naive optimism going into the filming of this movie. We didn't really quite have enough money to do these things, but I didn't know that at the time, so I just went ahead and did it. I mean, it's just like a lot of careful planning and trying to storyboard things so that to make it cheaper, I guess, like really trying to make choices before we filmed, because each one of those bullets and each one of those explosions cost money and takes forever. Filming action scenes is actually like kind of, I don't know if I would say boring, but it's very, it's slow. It's a very slow moving process. But we had a great stunt coordinator on the movie who was really wonderful. He was really great, and everybody was really game to try stuff, except for Tsai, who had a stunt double. Some of the stuff we modified for her. One of the first things she told me was, she doesn't run, she will not run, she will only walk. So we had to rewrite the chase scene to be a walk scene instead of a chase. Exactly. I storyboarded some of the stuff around that. But in a way, maybe it made it better because it made it more true to what an 80-year-old would actually be like physically, right? She also liked to tell me I didn't know anything about being old. So I learned about being old by all the things that she couldn't do. And so we just found our way around that.
So all of you got to work with Tsai Chin. You all had scenes with Tsai Chin. Since he's not here, I was wondering if all of you guys could go around and talk about working with her individually and what was like the best thing, most challenging thing, or something that stands out. Because she really, like you said earlier, Sasie, I really hope she does get a lot of notice for this because she deserved it. I mean, she's pretty incredible, you know, her whole career, but like in this, you really created something for her to shine. So maybe everybody could go around and, I don't know, talk about Tsai. This is the Tsai Chin love hour, I guess.
Where is Tsai, by the way?
She's in her apartment alone because of COVID and doesn't really do computers. She does email on her phone, but Zoom was like too much for her, technology wise.
It's almost a bit too much for me.
It sounds like grandma, right? So it's true to form.
Yeah, and we didn't want to send anyone, you know, into her apartment to help her at this point. Yeah.
Clem, you had a cool scene with her.
Yeah, I had a very cool scene with her. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. You know, this is the legend that I'm gonna work with. She was a little bit removed in the beginning, should I say. So I try to make small talk with her. I bet in her mind, she's probably saying, who the hell is this guy, you know? So we ran some lines. She wasn't too enthusiastic to work with me in the beginning, but we did our rehearsals, and I could feel that she was slowly warming up. And at one point I said, Tsai, I want to take a picture of you before the day is over. She said, like this? I'm not going to take any picture with no makeup on. So yeah, so I had to wait till later. But later, I thought, it wouldn't be cool to pursue that. All right. So we were changing, I changed back to my own clothes and I was about to leave. She came up to me and said, I'm ready. I'm ready for my picture. So I did have my picture taken. And she even said, you're a very good actor. So I would never forget that. So that's my experience with Tsai. And of course, I watched her from Joy Club. In fact, it probably is one of the first DVD I owned, Joy Luck Club. Yep.
Yeah, it was quite amazing being with Tsai on set. It was like it felt like a master class in acting. Every time I got a chance to work with her, and her stories off screen were amazing. I talk about Hollywood on Netflix and how that talks about Hollywood in the heyday. But hearing the stories from her, these are direct. She's worked with Ingrid Bergman and Sean Connery and Donald Sutherland and all these. She has a really good memory, and she has these crazy type of stories that I wouldn't be thinking would come out from a 85-year-old, but they are quite amusing.
Who wants to speak? Well, I only had a very short day. You want to go ahead, Clem? Go ahead.
No. I say you go ahead.
Okay. I only had a very short scene with her, couple of scenes, but they were all shot in one day or one evening, I believe. Well, she is, as Clem said, kind of a legend, and I was like slightly in awe. She could be a diva, she could not be. But luckily, I had a mutual friend who is a very good friend of hers that she did a stage show with, Liana Pei, and I mentioned, and she was immediately very happy to hear that, and they said they had dinner together, and so that broke the ice. And as I said, the scene that I had done with her was very, very fast and very short, and I was speaking in Cantonese and she was speaking in Mandarin, so as the Chinese would say, the chicken was talking to the duck, but we talked very well. We understood each other very well, and that's major. And I had a great time with her at the screening, the party after the screening. And I was really surprised because prior to doing the movie, I did a play along Henry VI, and I kind of briefly mentioned it. And she had me sit down and write down all the roles, and we had to play multiple roles, cross-gender and all that. So I had to write down all the roles. I was very touched that she actually remembered what I said and was kind enough to have me write a list on this napkin. I'm sure the napkin's gone before she got home, but I was touched. Let me put it this way.
Yeah, I noticed that you were speaking Cantonese in that scene, and
Yeah.
she was speaking Mandarin. It threw me off, and I was like, what's the?
I think it was very realistic because actually it's totally believable that, you know, Cantonese speaking people would communicate with Mandarin speaking people. I mean, I could speak Mandarin, but Angela somehow really liked it. She likes the fact that I was speaking in Cantonese and we could actually communicate.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah, I want to talk about the language thing really quickly, just because I don't think we've talked about it in any of the Q&As yet, but it was like a big discussion that Angela and I had ongoing, because, you know, the New York Chinatown, well, it's a complicated place, but originally, like the core New York Chinatown is Cantonese speakers. And now there's, you know, plenty of Mandarin speakers and Fukienese speakers and stuff. But the old school, the people who would have been grandma's generation would have been Cantonese. And so originally when we were imagining the role, I always imagined grandma as a Cantonese speaker. But then, you know, Tsai is just grandma. And so I had to cast Tsai. And so, you know, we had to write this new backstory for grandma a little bit. You know, we wrote like a bio for her about how a Mandarin speaker would have come and all of this stuff, and how her husband actually would have been a Cantonese speaker, so she would have understood, and all of the things. And, you know, when we were casting everybody else, it was a big discussion because, you know, we just really wanted the best actors. That's really what we wanted. We just wanted the best actors. And so we kind of cast for that, even though originally we had wanted to be like very authentic and have maybe one gang be purely Cantonese speakers and another gang, you know, Mandarin speakers or something. But, you know, it kind of went out the window for artistic license a little bit. And actually the whole Mandarin Cantonese thing in the same scene was something that Angela and I asked our moms about, because we weren't sure that was like, okay. Angela, do you want to, yeah.
Yeah. I remember my mom having friends who spoke Cantonese and them getting along kind of, she could sort of understand Cantonese, and they definitely returned her questions in Cantonese. And so I seem to recall that, but I wanted to just make sure. And so we did a lot. I did a lot of asking my mom things to verify last minute, and last minute script changes too was very much like, okay, I'm going to just call my translator, which is actually my mom, to just, you know, just fill in some of the details to make sure. But it was still really tough since my mom is actually Taiwanese. And so she would translate something very, like in Mandarin, very particular to Taiwanese, like phrasing. And so somebody from the mainland would be like, what is this word? Like, I don't really use this word. I have no idea what this means. And so there was a fair amount of like, would they use this term and all that type of stuff? Yeah. And there was a lot of wrestling with that throughout the entire writing portion, but also on set as well.
Yeah, and even when we were screening the movie, you know, while we were still doing rough cuts and stuff, you know, sometimes we would get comments only from the Chinese audience, never from anybody else, about all of the different accents, because, you know, it's really like a diaspora that's in the movie. Like everybody is kind of from everywhere. The mainlanders really liked your accent, Yan, in particular. They said that your Mandarin was beautiful.
Yes.
Well, I'm a
Everybody likes
native
my
speaker.
Mandarin.
I hope it's, you know, ass.
Yeah, there's some pretty
figured...
snobby people about Yan, but basically upholding Yan's as the perfect Mandarin accent, you know. So yeah.
You know, we figured that's really what the United States is like, right? Like everybody's from everywhere and speak different dialects and with different accents, right?
Everybody's Chinese. Everybody's Chinese. The United States, everybody's Chinese. I wanted to let Woody and Yan tell their side stories if they have any. Do you guys have anything to share about your scenes with Tsai?
I have one that's so I had like my first scene same as Michael, my first day shooting was like that big intimidation scene where it's like basically a monologuing Chinese at her for like 5 minutes. And that was related to what Angela and Sasie are saying about like having our actual moms as like kind of like language and authenticity filters. Like I had an early version of the script and I was like running all the Chinese by my mom. And my mom basically is Lucky Grandma. So she was like, no one would ever say this. They wouldn't say it. Like, she like full on like just started like going through it. And my mom like I have never seen her like have any reaction like to my career, you know what I mean, in a classic like Asian mom way. And this was one thing that she really jumped on top of. And she was like, I think it would make more sense if you said it this way. And she would give me like acting notes. She's like, you would pause here so you can really hit this line here. Like I have never seen her more involved. And she was like telling me, and then my dad gets on the phone. So I'm like, both of them like chiming in about how I should do the line. And then I called Angela. I'm like, my mom has some ideas about like maybe tweaking some of the language. Is that cool? And Angela was like, yes, do the mom version, basically. I was like, okay, great. So that was like, the whole thing kind of like brought me and my family closer for that reason, because like as an actor, they're like, we don't understand what a callback is. Either you make money from it or you don't. So like when I was on set, I was like super like focused about like making sure the pronunciation was right and like hitting my lines and like and it was great being with Tsai, obviously. I mean, like as you can see from the movie, she's a tremendous, like she's such a great, she has so much like acting experience that like, and she's number one on the call sheet. And like, there's so many of like these close-ups of just her face where she's like, you know, and that's like a million things that are better than any dialogue. Like she conveys so much with her eyes. And like in that monologue scene, I was getting a lot of that just from her, like, you know, or like from a look. Also after the premiere, the Tribeca premiere, which I took my mom to, she was like, oh, that's Tsai. I'm like, yeah, because she knows Tsai because Tsai's, I think, father was like a famous Pekingese opera guy. Mm-hmm. Is that right, Angela? Yeah. And she was like, oh, and like she like perked up, like she's bona fide, like she's got creds. So then my mom like afterwards like went up to Tsai and was like, that was very good, which from my mom is like a grand slam, like out the park. Like you're not getting a higher compliment than that.
Yan, you want to talk about being in the sauna with Tsai Chin?
Yes, actually, that's the funny part. It was not a sauna. It was like a built room. It was this, not abandoned, but like it was an old bank. It was like a TD bank or something. And it was like a late October, early November. It was really cold and there was no heat. So it's supposedly built in this like warm sauna. And then I'm in like a nice robe and she's supposed in this bathing suit. She was cold. She was very grumpy actually that day. and Sasie was right. Like she constantly reminded everyone, she's like, you know, I'm 85 years old. Like, and then she's like, I'm cold. And that's why, like, I think one of the funniest things is that she said her feet was cold. She insists on wearing those black socks. I remember this negotiation with Sasie saying, like, nobody wears socks in the sauna. She's like, I do. I'm 85 years old. And so the socks was remained in the scene. Is actually really funny watching her climbing off this, the sauna like step with those black socks on. And when we first met, and she said she Googled me, and I was kind of scared. I was like, she Googled me? What? And then we talk about where I was from, like Harbin is really cold and stuff. And I always feel like she is like, I feel like she's the Asian Betty White, you know, like her career takes off later in life, kind of like it. And she, even though her career lasted all these decades, I'm not sure if she ever had a leading role, you know.
I don't think in film, in maybe theater for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you're right. I don't think she ever had a leading role in a feature film. So, you know, and then here she is, 85, and she gets her, like her big break, right? Like, you know, leading lady, and that's amazing.
I just want to add something about language again, if I may. I'm a native Cantonese speaker. So when I talk to Sasie, so is Y. When I talked to Sasie, I said, can I speak Cantonese with Tsai? She said, no, it's either Tsai learning Cantonese to speak with me in the scene, or I learn Mandarin to speak with Tsai. Well, guess who wins? So I had to learn Mandarin, and guess who I got as my teacher? Right there, that lady in red.
Ah,
Yes, Yan. Yan was my mentor. She taught me the Mandarin. So, and just today, I was telling her I couldn't bear to watch my scene. I couldn't bear to hear my Mandarin with the accent. And she said, she was kind enough to say, no, it sounds even funnier. It sounds more realistic. You know,
It's
trying
Yeah.
to learn,
Because
you know, Mandarin.
We have a
because
lot
the
of
Southern Chinese speaks, Mandarin in that
Mandarin.
sing-song kind of twine, and that's
Yeah.
what I was
True.
like. That made the part so much funnier.
but that
It's
is
true. I was not
Chinatown.
being kind.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just being speaking.
You're
the
right,
truth.
Why? That is Chinatown.
That is Chinatown.
Yeah.
A lot of
They
Reminds
all
me-
a lot of
make
Cantonese
accent
speakers
and
trying to
very
speak
realistic.
Mandarin. And that was me.
It reminds me of
that's just so
home.
funny.
It would have been me
I love the way
too.
it sounds.
Clem, the reason we asked you guys to speak the same dialect in that scene is because you guys had a love connection. So we kind of
Yeah.
figured in
Yes.
that one, you know, you should
it
speak
wouldn't
the
have
same.
worked, with Cantonese and Mandarin, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah, I agree with you. So I hope all the Mandarin speaking audience would cut me some slack.
Sounded okay to me. I do love the look on Tsai's face when you grab her hand and put it on your chest. It's marvelous.
My turtle heart.
So we're kind of nearing. I think we have an hour on this thing, right? I wanted to. We're kind of nearing the end of the hour, so I wanted to let Sasie and Angela talk a little bit about kind of like, the movie is not coming out in the most ideal situation, but I think, I think if this movie, people see it, it will find its audience because it's pretty marvelous. I don't know. What can you say about sort of the reactions to the film that you've heard so far? And you want to share anything that's been kind of like cool or interesting about now that it's in front of eyeballs? Like, what are you feeling?
Angela, you want to start? You start.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to come in, like, I don't think I can organize everything just yet, but I'm getting just overwhelming amount of just messages from people from the past, but also I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and there's actually quite a big Chinese community there. And that community is so deeply proud and so excited about the movie. And from what I understand, the Houston Chinese Community Center bought like 50 tickets and sort of sponsored senior citizens to watch the movie. I think that people are just so happy to see themselves on screen in many ways. So yeah, I'm just getting so many wonderful messages of support and also just like random text messages from people that I haven't spoken to in years, being like, I saw your movie, I loved it so much,
Yeah, very much the same thing. I mean, so many of the things that have tickled me. We've gotten some fan art, like people drawing grandma, which kind of made me so happy that she's like iconic, or inspiring other people to make things and like little videos and things
That's
like
legit.
that.
If people are making fan art, then that's legit, right?
Yeah, so that's sort of like the thing that made me super happy. And obviously just like seeing everybody's work get out there finally and getting the attention I think that it deserves. Because, this is a small indie movie. Nobody did this for the money. It's like very much, a labor of love and so much hard work. So it's just that it's out there in the world.
Yeah.
I want to say, oh, go ahead.
No. Sorry, Sasie, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
But I got the best review today. So my mom is like Woody's mom, who is sparing with praise, would be the way to describe it. So when she first saw the movie, she told me, and this on a poster, and I have it on video, her reaction was, it was better than I thought. That was her reaction to the movie. Watched it three more times, and she told me, okay, so now that she's watched it all these times, she told me, good job. That was for today. And Angela, I want you to know that she also was very complimentary of the calligraphy at the beginning of the movie and wanted to know who did it.
Yes, the calligraphy is from an uncle who's obviously not related, in Houston who is not an official calligraphy artist, but everybody just like word on the street is that he has beautiful handwriting, and he is the one who did the final calligraphy for the fortune telling in the beginning. So yes, I'm so glad. I will pass that message on to him.
Yeah,
I think
pass
he'd be
that
very
message.
flattered.
Yeah.
I think he gets a credit in the he's named in the credits, right? I thought I saw a calligraphy mentioned in the credits. Am I correct?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah. Maybe yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So we're kind of nearing the end. Does anybody have any last thoughts, or maybe Sasie, you want to talk about?
Welcome to Chinatown, maybe.
Yeah. Welcome to Chinatown. Yeah.
Yeah, so the movie has partnered with this nonprofit called Welcome to Chinatown. They're really great. They kind of started out like grassroots, like so many other things when COVID-19 started. Just seeing like Chinatown hurting, you know, it's definitely like many small businesses been impacted, but also maybe especially so because of some of the xenophobia that has accompanied the pandemic. And, you know, we just wanted to give back to the community that was so welcoming to us when we were filming. And so part of the proceeds from the film are going to support Welcome to Chinatown. They're doing small business grants, small business support, like help with loan applications, translation work, all kinds of great stuff. So check it out. They're called welcometochinatown.com, and they're great, great ladies.
Does anybody else have any final thoughts about Lucky Grandma?
I wanted to say something, which is that, like, to me, one of the legacies that I hope this movie can do, it can leave behind, is that like change is gradual, right? Generational. It takes many, many years, and I think everything that is made needs to have been made because something before it was made, right? So, like, I was talking about this on another Q&A with Michael. It's like, I don't think this movie would have had a chance of being made unless Crazy Rich Asians came out first, right? To raise that awareness and like, Asian people have money and will buy tickets, crazy. But like, and now that this movie is made, which is like a much more, I think, nuanced, smart, and like sophisticated story with characters that are very rich and detailed. Like, my hope is that like the thing that comes after this can be even more like next level. You know, like I think this movie is, I'm really happy that I got to be a part of this movie because I think it's like such a special, weird, funny, dark, like gem, you know, like it's very idiosyncratic. And I think that a lot of that comes down to the writing and the way it's directed and also the casting. Like it's such a weird, specific, but like very emotionally true story, I think.
Thanks, Lee.
Hey, yay to Sasie and Angela.
Thank you guys. Thank you for being in our movie.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. So nice to see you all.
Yes.
I know.
So for everybody watching, the movie is Lucky Grandma. It's all over the place right here on screen. But you know, people would ask me, how do I watch the movie? Actually, maybe real. If people are watching this and they haven't watched the movie and they're just tuning in and jumping on this Zoom thing, I mean, how can people watch the movie? Maybe leave it with that.
Okay. Angela, do you think you can give a clearer explanation than I can?
Well, the best thing to do is actually to go to the Good Deed Entertainment website, because Lucky Grandma, the movie is at the very top. And if you click on that, it'll actually have a page that takes you to all the tickets that are available. And each ticket, like all the theaters, all the virtual theaters that are participating are listed, and you just simply have to pick on which theater you want to support. And then you just participate by clicking on purchase tickets, and then you will be able to watch it in the comforts of your living room.
Yes. So even
though
though
drive-ins as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though it's streaming, it's supporting a specific physical theater in the world. So it's all those indie and art house theaters that really keep film culture alive across the United States. So like here in New York, it's our Angelica, you know, it's the Alamo Drafthouse, it's, you know, the film societies in different places, et cetera. And all of those places are closed right now because of COVID and don't have any revenue coming in. So if you want to keep your local theater alive, please watch Lucky Grandma. Or
It's
can I just add, when you get to the ticket page?
Good Deed.
Yes, Good Deed Entertainment.com. Let's make that clear.
And, yeah,
Thank you.
and slash lucky grandma. But you have to
When you get to
scroll,
decide the first one,
scroll
like
up to see the list of theaters, because that's where people get
Right.
confused. Because if
Right.
you click on tickets and it take you to this little blurb about explaining, you're like, where are the tickets?
Right.
So
It's
you have to scroll
have to
up
keep
and
going.
then you see the theaters. That's where people get lost a little
That's
bit.
right.
So if
That's
that
right.
little blurb, if they can add a little, you know, scroll up to see the list of theaters you want to, you could purchase tickets from. Okay.
So
Thank you.
all the grandmas out there, you got to ask your kids how to
Yeah.
navigate this.
Yeah.
This is good.
Make your kids do it.
This will
Right.
confuse people, but you can do it.
You can ask my grandkid to do it.
All right. I want to thank you guys for letting me sit in on this chat, and for Good Deed and like the whole Lucky Grandma team for getting me involved. And congratulations! It's an awesome, wonderful movie.
Thank
Thank you,
you for
Phil.
hosting, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Bye.
Yeah.
I cannot make that sign.
I can't do it.
Asian pride.
I'm gonna
don't
not
know
do
how
it.
to do
For,
this.
I'm gonna not do it for fear that I might do something totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I think that's smart.
All right. So I guess that concludes the Q&A. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Thank
Phil.
you.
Bye, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye.